Good evening. Welcome to the February 10th Planning Commission meeting. All commissioners are present with the exception of Commissioners Hutchison and Pryor.
I'm here.
No, yes, you are. I'm sorry.
It's Robert that's not here.
Yeah, it's Robert that's not here. Anyway, so let's get pledge allegiance. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
These things are going to kill us. Introduction of staff.
Stacy Webbs, Recording Secretary for the Planning Commission.
O'Neill Pannerton, Parish.
Jerome Fournier, Director of Planning and Development.
Eric Poche, Senior Planner.
Sean Chereau, Engineer Review Agency.
Thank you. Chairman has no comments. Staff report. Jerome, you have a presentation?
Yes, I do. I'm going to have Mr. Poche give his subdivision report first, and then we'll do that right after. Okay?
There it is, sorry. All right, thank you, Mr. Vice Chairman. You'll see in front of you the normal subdivision monthly status report. Any changes noted by asterisk. We had a couple of things approved at last month's meeting. There weren't really any other status changes on there. If any of you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Any questions? Okay. Jerome?
Okay. Yeah. If we can get the PowerPoint presentation up. Thank you. John? There we go. Thank you. There's been a lot of talk recently, and we thought it would be a good opportunity to give some information about how the subdivision approval process works for the parish. And we prepared, staff has prepared this slide presentation that I'd like to go through. And it basically is how we go through our process of approving subdivisions for the parish, all right? So typically, turn this on. First off, I'll introduce the department staff. I'm the director. Lance Brock is our assistant director, zoning administrator. Eric, who's right next to me, is senior planner. Marcy Shivers, who works under part of the floodplain administrator. Dean Wallace, is stormwater administrator. Kiana Lomas is the address coordinator. Stacy is our secretary as well as planner. Jamaica Banker, administrative assistant. Angie Charleville, administrative assistant. Micah Sanchez is the lead subdivision inspector, and I'll get to their role a little bit later. Andrew LeBlanc is subdivision inspector. Kenny Chapman is subdivision inspector. Christian Galecki is a subdivision inspector. And Sean, who's right behind me, is with CSRS, and he's with our engineering review agency and is an integral part of our staff. Typically, when we get some inquiries into land development, it usually starts with either a phone call or a brief meeting, in person. And people are just making informal inquiries as to what they can do with a piece of property, all right? Typically, we have questions that's related to zoning and the development criteria that might occur on that property. We'll answer those questions as best we can, give them as much feedback as we can on the development of that piece of land. And after that, we'll schedule a pre-app meeting, right? And the pre-app meeting is a formal request. We receive a formal request from the applicant for a pre-app meeting. The request is received. They have to pay a $900 application fee for the pre-app meeting. That covers the expense of having our consultants there and everybody else, right? At the pre-app meeting, we usually participating in the pre-app meeting is the applicant and the applicant's team, the planning department, that would typically be Eric, myself, other members of the department, including some of the individual staff, inspectors, senior inspector at least. The engineering review agency be Sean, who actually leads the meeting. a member of the Drainage Department, a member of the Transportation Department, the Utility Department, and also the Stormwater Department. At that meeting, we have a general overview of the project. We're asking where the location is, the property zoning, the parcel size itself, if it's residential, the proposed number of units that'll be a part of that plat, any landscaping requirements, and any delineation of wetlands that might occur on the property, right? That's an important component of developing property in the parish. At many of the discussion points, I'll go through them one by one. Typically, we'll talk about the site layout. Is there a connection to public street network? How is that connection made? Is there a secondary street connectivity, which is something we've discussed in our subdivisions here recently? Any variances that are needed, typically like sidewalks, things of this sort. And what are the setback requirements for any property that's going to develop in that lot, all right? We'll go over those at the pre-app meeting. Secondly, we'll go over traffic. We'll set the parameters of the required traffic study, all right? The study threshold from 0 to 3, identify required intersections, the required capacity of the road network, any move Ascension work that's nearby that project, any site distance issues that we might have, for safety issues. And we also want to inform them that meeting that the project will be subject to the transportation impact fee, all right? Then we'll go over the drainage with the Drainage Department. We'll set the parameters of the required drainage study, the HECRAS scoping, identify existing drainage servitudes that are nearby and within the project itself, identify the receiving stream for the stormwater, describe the required servitudes within the subdivision itself, review the fill mitigation requirements of the project, and also look at the detention ponds and how they have to be constructed, all right? Then we'll look at sanitary sewer. Is there an ability to connect to an adjacent system, and are they going to be required to install a new sewer system, all right? Location of the treatment plant and the lift stations within the subdivision itself. We want to make sure they're in a location that can be easily served, and also for a future connection to what might be a trunk line that's near the project. Lastly, we'll identify the discharge locations if there is to be a new sewer treatment plant, right? The application, once the pre-app meetings occurred, the applicant will typically go back to the drawing board with their consultants and come back, and they'll submit an application for a preliminary plat approval. And that's to schedule the hearing before you, the Planning Commission, to look at the preliminary plat and gain approval or denial. And I underline the word complete here because when a complete package is accepted by staff, that's an important consideration because it triggers by state law, and I'll have that on the next slide, an important time frame, all right? But we require a complete package, and that complete package must be the application, the traffic study, the drainage study, the preliminary plat, and they also have to pay another fee in addition to the fee they paid for the pre-app meeting of $3,000, and that allows us to move forward with reviewing all the work that they've done so far. I put this is the Louisiana Revised Statutes, and on the Louisiana Revised Statutes that you can read, Section 33-113, a planning commission shall approve or disapprove a plat within 60 days after the submission thereof to it. And what we're defining as submission is the complete application package, all right? So if there's any one element of that application package that's missing, we would not deem it to have been submitted to us, all right? So once that package is complete, it's submitted, all of a sudden it triggers the 60-day period. So if you read on, it says, if it's not approved within 60 days, otherwise such plat shall be deemed to have been approved, and a certificate to that effect shall be issued by such commission on demand, right? We cannot delay the 60-day period or extend it. That has to be at the applicant's request. Many times we'll confer with the applicant and ask if they'd like to defer till the next meeting or the following meeting until there may be some more information that's available. But the applicant has to make that request. We can't, right? So once the application is done, we forward that to you, the planning commission, and then you can approve the project and it moves forward to detailed design. That's with their engineer, or the project's denied. And there are three things that can occur when the project's denied. They can go back to the drawing board and redesign the project based on some of the concerns you, the planning commission, has had. Or they can go back and just abandon the project. Or they can take the project and appeal it to the Planning Board of Appeals, which is the parish council, all right? If the project's approved, and I'm just assuming this, that it'll be approved with the following slides, the project design team goes back, and that's the private design team, and prepares a complete set of construction drawings, all right? The construction complies with the parish construction specifications that you guys approved a couple of years ago. It's in our Unified Land Development Code. The drawings, the plans cover all demolition, grading of the property, and the installation of the public improvements, right? All plans and specs are reviewed and approved by the parish ERA, the engineering review agency, that's Sean. There are several iterations of the review between the design engineer and the engineering review agency, and Sean keeps us posted as to what those are. I get copied in all the correspondence between the ERA and the design and their design team. All right. Plan design is also reviewed by the parish departments, drainage, transportation, utilities, and stormwater, and of course Eric. Eric is the focal point for the planning department in terms of design review and plan review. Then, and when they submit the plans, they also have to pay another fee, and that's to cover the cost of construction review. And that fee is $1,000 plus $100 for every lot that's in the subdivision. It's a rather extensive process, and the fees are required. So when you see these fees here, the whole purpose of the fee is to recover our cost of doing the work, right, and paying our consultant to do that. Right? Once the plans have been approved, Sean's given me a letter, and that letter says that he approves the plans as they've been submitted. We'll have a pre-construction meeting, and that's where, at the conclusion of the construction plan reviews, staff schedules a meeting with the ERA, parish staff, including inspection team and the applicant's consultants, engineer, testing lab, and the construction contractor. We all meet. The last one I think we did virtually, but typically we meet at the administration building in the big office, and we go over the plans, what we're looking for out in the field when they're doing the construction, and we also, at the end of that meeting, issue them a permit to begin construction. Right. So there's a lot of work that goes into actually reviewing plans and the planning process prior to them actually starting construction of the project, right? Once the construction begins, our parish inspection team is on site throughout the construction process, and the testing lab, which is hired by them, provides tests of all the construction material used on site. They will test the concrete that's put in the streets, the piping, all the other infrastructure improvements that are placed in the site, right? At the completion of the construction and prior to the final plat approval, all approved infrastructure has been installed, water and electrical utilities have been installed, and that's a new requirement of them. In the past, we didn't require water and electrical, but because of the sewer plants and the issue of testing those, we now require them. If the streets are public, or to be public, they have to have gone to the council and created a road improvement district. And then the final inspection occurs. In fact, we had one this morning for a project that will appear next month. We have the final inspection with the full team out in the field looking through the project, right? Again, a fee is collected for the final plat review and the inspection. That's $1,000 plus $20 per lot, right? Once that's done, we've got everything complete, the inspections occurred, we schedule it for final plat approval before the planning commission. But before we do that, we have to have maintenance bonds posted. The final plat review is reviewed by staff. We have a record certified drawings submitted. All the testing lab results have been reviewed, all right? So we want to make sure that everything's up to snuff, right? Then the final plat approval is scheduled before you as a body, and it appears on the consent calendar. So, before that final plat is approved, there's a lot of work that goes into placing it on the agenda. And we make sure that everything's up to snuff before we put it on that agenda, right? We as staff. Once it's approved on the consent calendar, the final plat is signed by the planning commissioner and chair. Then the final plat is recorded at the parish with the parish recorder. Lots described within the final plat at that point in time become legal lots, all right? Addresses are assigned and filed with 911 people. All the utilities like energy, the cable company, they need to know where the addresses are. So each lot is assigned a unique address. And lots are then become available for sale and issuance of a building permit to construct homes, right? That's pretty much the procedure that we use for looking at from the very beginning to the end of a subdivision. It's a long, detailed process, and I wanted to go over that with you, the Planning Commission, and also people watching at home, to let everyone know what we do in the department in conjunction with the, DPW, transportation, drainage, Sean's work with CSRS, and all the work that we do. And I'm happy to open it up to questions. Sean's available to answer any questions from an ERA perspective, and Eric is here as well, talk about the planning department.
Any questions? Let the record show that Commissioner Hudson has arrived, is present.
Thank you so much.
Engineering staff report? That's it? Okay. Approval or denial of the minutes on January 13th. Moved by Commissioner Chason.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Hutchinson. All in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. Consent agenda. We have two items, affidavit of mortgage declaration, Wendell Crawford Jr., Track 1A, 13514 Crawford Road, Gonzales, Louisiana. Item 10B, affidavit of mortgage declaration, Freddie Paul Rouye, 1 acre portion of Lot B1A, 40157 William Ficklin Road, Prairieville, Louisiana.
Move to approve.
Second.
Moved by Commissioner Chason, second by Commissioner Furman. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Yeah, next item, public hearing. Item 11A, Philip Babin property, Lot B1A1 and B1A2.
Ellen Jackson with McLean Taylor Incorporated, asking
Jackson.
for your approval.
Anybody here, we'll open the public hearing. Anybody here to speak on this matter?
No.
Nobody? We'll close the public hearing. Any comments, Commissioner?
Move we approve.
Moved by Commissioner Furman,
Second.
second by Commissioner Sherman. All in favor?
Aye.
11B, the William Hebert property, Lot D1, D2, E1.
Mickey Robertson, MR Engineering and Surveying. Be happy to answer any questions.
We'll open up the public hearing. Anybody for this matter? Nobody? We'll close the public hearing. Commissioners, any questions, motions? Motion to approve by Commissioner Chason,
Second.
Commissioner Furman. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you.
Item 11C, Kurt Hundler property, Lot 1B1 and 1B2.
James Rogers, representing Mr. Cudler family on the following family partition, asking the commission for approval.
open up the public hearing. Stacy?
No.
Nobody here? We'll close the public hearing. Commissioners?
Move to approve.
Move to approve by Commissioner Chason,
Second.
second by Commissioner Furman,
Whatever.
Furman. Close
by
enough.
Kermit.
I'll take it.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
It's a Cuban in me, I'm sorry. Item 11D, Howard M. Stafford Estates.
Seth Mosby, Quality Engineering and Surveying. We performed the survey.
We'll open up the public hearing. Stacy?
No.
Nobody here? We'll close the public hearing. Commissioners?
Move we approve.
Move to approve by Commissioner Furman,
Second.
second by Commissioner Hutchinson. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Item 12A, public hearing to approve or deny the following preliminary plats. Pelican Point Golf Community, 14th filing, Phase 1 and 2.
Clint Kennerly with Parish Engineering, here representing the developer Doug Diaz. This is originally, just to give a quick brief history, Pelican Point from its conception has had a master plan, or lack of better terms, a concept plan. This property, in 2019, we did a revision to the master plan to take it from 84 townhomes to single-family residential lots, as you see on here. And we're just now getting to where we're at the preliminary plat stage and start moving forward and trying to develop it. We've got some substantial drainage improvements. We hope to kind of enhance not only the drainage of the area, but as far as the aesthetics of the golf course and that nature. Also some traffic improvements at Highway 44 that'll hopefully alleviate some concerns there. Outside of that, I'm here to answer any questions you may have.
Well, I'll ask a question. You have proposed lot number 935. Part of it is encumbered by the Airport Safety Zone B. What exactly implications does it have on that lot?
I don't have that verbiage. The outer portion, you cannot have a structure. So that lot will be confined to where they cannot put that structure with it, but it only encumbers, I want to say, 10 to 15 feet of the rear of the property. So it will be restricted there.
Staff, have they provided any, regulations or anything to support that?
There's a regulation noted on there's a yellow crosshatch there, about items that are specifically prohibited in Zone B, being churches, hospitals, schools, theaters, or things that are general assembly areas where you would have multitudes of people in there.
And the regulation allows residential,
Yes. Just not assembly.
but you've confirmed that? Okay.
Mr. Vice Chairman, if you look at the map in detail, you'll see where the edge of the proposed airport safety zone kind of ends, almost at the edge of the property, right near the pond, all right? So the remainder of the parcel is not in the proposed
Correct.
safety zone B, all right? So as long as they stay out of that hashed area right there, they still have to comply with the note that Eric just mentioned, and it's noted on the preliminary plat, Airport Safety Zone B per Ascension Parish Zoning Ordinance 17-2036, and they specify the uses that that are not allowed in that area. But a house is, all right?
Right.
All right.
All right, thank you, that clarifies it for me.
I have a question regarding the entry, the egress into that development. Looks like everything comes through the greens, right?
Yes, sir.
At the front end of the greens, which I've traveled many times when it was developed and since, it's a very narrow street there. It opens up to a wide boulevard like further down. Any concerns there with that road being able to hold up, that street being able to hold up with the extra traffic?
It hasn't been brought to my attention. It wasn't something that was addressed in the traffic study, but we can certainly look into it.
Yeah, and quite often when you go through there, the greens, there's no place for for contractors in that front, I'm talking about the front area now before the boulevard, such as lawn service companies to pull off out of the way. They typically just park on the edge of the street, and of course, it blocks one of the lanes. And is any chance or any thoughts about having a second way to enter into this this development that you're presenting tonight?
I think the only possibility as of right now would be as if possibly in Riverton, if there's an access ultimately allowed, that would be one possible way.
Right.
If anything was to come to the south, towards the church to be developed, we still do have some green area that we could use as an access point.
Yeah.
But,
Well, mainly looking at trying to get some traffic to use Pelican Point Parkway,
Sure.
the main entrance. I don't know if that was any interest there or not.
as of right now, it's kind of physically blocked. Golf course and everything.
I'll tell you another comment that I have. There's an awfully long way to go on Birdie Lane to get to a Hammerhead and then try to negotiate a turnaround for a garbage truck or any kind of large vehicle. So I would strongly encourage you to convert that to a cul-de-sac.
Okay.
And I would recommend that that be a condition.
Are we
Any
doing
other
questions
comment?
now, or are we going to do the public hearing first?
No, we're gonna do a public hearing. Stacy, let's open up the public hearing. Stacy, do we have anybody here? Okay, hearing nobody, then we'll close the public hearing. Commissioners, anybody have any comments, questions, or suggested motions?
I have questions about the traffic. Just want to make sure I see where there's some discussion about some of the level of services dropping, and it looks like the proposed mitigation is to adjust the sequencing or the timing of the lights. Has engineering looked at that and made sure that whatever the proposed, y'all can't hear me? I'm sorry. All right, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I apologize for that. Looking at the traffic study, it looks like there are a couple of intersections where there are level of service drops, and it looks like the proposed mitigation is signal timing adjustments. Has the engineering checked to make sure whatever the proposed signal timing adjustments are will actually
Yes.
eliminate the reduction to service?
Yes, and we actually went one more level, considering it's a DOTD maintained signal. We went to DOTD, made sure with the consultant confirmed that they would allow such timing. So we would be in a situation where someone's proposing something, but DOT would never allow it. We got confirmation back that what they're proposing is acceptable
Okay.
from DOTD, so.
And I guess my other follow-up to that is if there are timing, because we see these a lot, where the proposed mitigation is to adjust the timing, the signal timing. If signal timing adjustments can correct some of these traffic issues, why are they not already adjusted to whatever they're going to adjust it to?
It's, it's maintained by DOTD. Imagine these, things vary in time. There's actually sometimes in our reports, we make sure our consultants don't get credit for lack of maintenance. And then they go and get a chance to improve it in a proposed condition that looks like, to offset their impact. And but we do consider that, but until they can have the technology, the signals automatically adjust at all times based on a certain time of day, it's really difficult until technology can keep up. It usually takes a couple of people to complain. DOT will observe it, make sure it's not a knee-jerk reaction. And then if they observe a true pattern has changed, and then they'll make the adjustments. But we're talking about A's and B's and C's. It has to be a real drastic drop before they will really spend the time to accommodate, changes.
But they said they will do the changes on this one.
Yes, they said it would be acceptable. So by the time this project's built and they see the true traffic, who knows what are traffic patterns between shifts at factories and other things could come into play. They just said this is within a degree of not limitations, but be able to make adjustments that this is a reasonable mitigating approach.
I have a question.
So do those sort of mitigations then become compounded when I see that the traffic counts are from March 2016?
That's correct. Due to the COVID constraints, we weren't able to get accurate counts. So DOTD allowed us to use, they did have a recent count, and then they used a growth factor that's accepted. I want to say it's 2.4% growth factor that's applied.
Is that a
Industry
general
standard.
industry standard? So what's the current growth rate in Ascension Parish? Are we,
They don't do it by parish, they do it by actual location of road. That's why I see all these counters around the whole parish.
Yeah.
They'll see trends over time, and they probably see historical trends before COVID hits, and they'll,
Okay.
2% is sort of the default, but there are other ways that I've seen higher than 2. Germany Road and other locations, there are higher growth rates
Okay.
when they count.
but in 5, that's acceptable, 5 years? I mean, and we're talking about, talking about like shift changes and different
Yes.
industry being
This
built and all
is-
that stuff. That's-
Yes, this is all acceptable.
And then, there's no requirement for any sort of, counts from 44 and 22? Is that not within the area of interest, or?
The study, this is a weird one. It's like, do you count Pelican Point as an entire previously approved development and your analysis is at 44? Or is this a small subdivision tucked in the back corner of it? So where is, this one's Pelican, this is always a really tough project. I mean, do you view the entire thing as a whole or just the sub-piece? And we sort of did both. We looked at different parkways in 44. On this one, using counts at 44 was acceptable, considering there are a small percentage of traffic of pretty much a previously already approved and developed project. It's always been required to do their own signals already on 44, so this is a way to meet in the middle on an acceptable approach considering COVID and number of trips, and pretty much whatever's needed is just adjustment of signal timing. So this is highly, very acceptable for this type of project of this size within Pelican Point.
I had the same question as Aaron about the signal timing, but I had another one above that. It says that the northbound left turn lane and the southbound right turn lane on 44 would improve traffic at that intersection, but I couldn't find anywhere where we are requiring that to be done.
It's going to be a requirement. Basically, the traffic study found that rear entrance where it's gated has never been analyzed, that we can tell. So even before you even add one lot, it already hit a threshold close to needing a turn lane. So ultimately, that's what triggered we needed those.
And
So
do
why
we
don't you
have
build a
that
tunnel?
requirement set forth somewhere in the,
Well, traffic adjustment of time, remember, DOTD can do what they want when they want on signal timing. The tough part is they're not gonna adjust it, because the analysis is based on every single lot, all being developed, the people that live in these lots all come into the signal. That's almost maybe a year and a half from now that it's happening. So they're not gonna adjust the timing now.
right?
A year
What
and a
about the
half from
turn
now, there
lanes?
might be some slight factors to where the timing might be perfect and there's no need to touch it. So when it comes to signal time, it's almost saying there's no improvements needing. It's so small that it comes to DOTD going out there and making adjustment timings if it is necessary and needed. So
What about the turn lanes to the other entrance, to the gated entrance?
Well, if I'm not mistaken, that's part of the traffic study, and we're required to follow the,
right, I just didn't want, we can put a condition that obviously, traffic timing adjustments or DOTD be aware at the final plat, but once it goes beyond the final plat, you still have to sell the lots, build the lots, but if there is impact still there, and then adjust the timing. Tough requirement to force almost a year and a half after your final plat.
Well, I know traffic is the main concern for most residents of Ascension Parish, traffic and drainage. So I don't want that comment to just go, to be ignored. I want to know that they're going to be required to put those turn lanes, or else worse than D.
Sean, I can tell you that I go down 44 a lot. I live off of 44. And I can tell you that going towards the river during any peak time. The lack of turn lanes, with the exception of into the little commercial strip, hinders traffic tremendously. Dollar General doesn't have a turn lane. The southern entrance into Pelican Point, where the gated entrance is, doesn't have a turn. Anybody there that, if the gate's slow or whatever, and people are making a right turn there, that traffic comes to a screeching halt. It just seems to me like, nobody should be allowed to build a driveway onto 44 without turn lanes. Same thing with a subdivision on the other side of 44. In the afternoons, people just stop traffic because they can't make a left turn to go into the subdivision.
And I guess the question that Shannon was asking, I don't know that was answered, is it says for the level of service D analysis that northbound left turn lane and southbound right turn lane on LA 44 would improve the intersection to a D. But I don't see where, one, that's indicated on the map that that's going to be built, and two, where
Right.
that's indicated as a required condition on the documents given to us that those turn lanes be constructed in order to improve the level of service there. It's not the signal timing that she was concerned about. It's the
Then
reference
that's-
here requiring the turn lanes, and I don't see, unless I'm missing it too, I don't see where that's identified anywhere else in this packet that it's going to be performed as a condition of approval.
Well, the light entrance at the main entrance to Pelican Point already has turn lanes. It's, the entrance I'm reference to is, it's the one where the greens enters in the gated area. And that one has an issue, and I think it's within the commission's purview to require that, at least the right turn lane in. The left turn lane in is going to be very challenging to do for lack of right-of-way.
Well, I guess, but this says that there's a
That's
44
going
at
northbound.
Courtyard
Level of-
operates worse than a D. And the required, under the traffic impact study, is they're required to mitigate it to bring it to a D. And this says northbound left turn lane and southbound right turn lane on 44 would improve the intersection to a D. And it sounded like you said y'all were gonna do that. So I'm just curious where that is in the packet that that's a requirement.
Yeah, I was under the impression that, similar to the drainage study, if we're gonna build a detention pond, we're gonna have to do it. I mean, if we need to state it on the preliminary plat, we certainly can. Similar to the signal timing, it's,
Well, the signal time is going to be controlled by DOTD. They're going to do
That's
it
out of your
when that
control.
happens. But the intersection at Courtyard is a different animal. That one, we're either going to require it or we're not going to require it. And if we don't require it, then don't count on it being there.
Well, I think we have to, based on the analysis.
Well,
Yeah, I mean, I think it says it operates at less than the D and that the turn lanes would improve it to the D. So I think under the traffic impact analysis, it'd be required. And it sounds like it was your impression you were gonna build it anyway, right? So
yeah.
that shouldn't be an issue. So it looks like what we're looking at is making sure that we have the requirement for the northbound left turn lane and southbound right turn lane on 44 at Courtyard Drive, the change of the hammerhead to
To
the
cul-de-sac.
cul-de-sac, and there's something else?
no, that's it.
I don't know if anybody
that a
else have
motion?
any. Well, I don't know if anybody else has any questions first.
Anybody have any other comments or questions?
Just, I noticed about the school, it's two school districts within the same neighborhood. What's going on with that? Because people that move in may think they're going to one school and then they buy a house and they find out they're in another school district. And
Sure.
maybe beyond the scope of your capabilities, but what's being done about that?
That had came up at one point with the master plan, and I thought we had, it came to the decision that it would just be, I believe the Santa Maria districts.
And yeah, he's right. That's something that can be looked at. I mean, generally, they'll take school districts and go by parcel lines where you wouldn't run into this situation. But this is something that will be addressed. So one way or another, before they get their final plat, it'll be determined as to where these people are going to school. So we can get with the school board and we'll make sure that we have the adjustments made so that you don't have separate school districts in this neighborhood.
All right,
Okay,
thank you.
any other questions? Got a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve, subject to the following conditions. One, that the hammerhead at the back of, what's the name of the,
Greenside Drive.
Greenside Drive be
At Birdie Lane?
in Birdie
Birdie
Lane, Birdie Lane, at the back of Birdie Lane by lots 958 and 959 be converted from a hammerhead to a cul-de-sac. That the, condition 2 is that the, when you have paper, it's easier to flip through everything to get to it. 2 is that the developer improve the intersection at LA 44 and Courtyard Drive to include northbound left turn lane and southbound right turn lane along LA 44. And then number 3, and I'm not sure how we style this, but that the developer submit at the appropriate time to LADOTD for traffic signal optimization as indicated in the documents in the traffic impact study.
I'll
We have a
second.
motion?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Furman. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
No. Let's roll call. Commissioner Hudson, aye.
Aye.
Commissioner Furman.
Aye.
Commissioner Hutchins.
Aye.
Commissioner Chason.
Aye.
And Commissioner Kamush.
Nate.
And the chairman says yes, so the motion passes. All right. We'll move on to item 13, public hearing to recommend approval or denial of the parish council of the following ordinances. O'Neill, I understand you're going to do this, or are you going to do it? Okay. I got a couple
No,
of questions.
I'm going to make the presentation, but if you have a question for the,
Yeah, I got a couple of questions. Don't we normally just call for a public hearing on 1 month and then schedule it for the next month? And don't we need to advertise this stuff?
well,
Isn't that the normal procedure that we do this?
we have done that in the past. I've been advised that we can move forward with a public hearing this. The public hearing is, you're just going to make a motion as to whether you want to recommend approval or denial to the council. It's ultimately the council's decision on this, and there will be a public hearing when it gets to that.
All right, well, let's take item number 13A, an ordinance to amend the Ascension Parish Unified Land Development Code, Appendix 4, Subdivision Regulations, Section 17-4030A.1, street requirements pertaining to density restrictions.
Yeah. At one of the prior meetings, we had a discussion as to what are we going to allow when a property owner or a subdivision developer or an applicant basically negotiates with the parish. I shouldn't use the word negotiate, but basically agrees with the parish that they will widen a road, all right, because it's currently a substandard. Right now, any road that's less than 18 feet in width has to be widened in order to accomplish the goal of accessing that road for a subdivision. What we'd like to see is that if they agree to widen the road, that widening occurs at a certain standard. And the standards that we have come up with is that we have an approved master street plan, it's in the Unified Land Development Code, and we also have just approved the master transportation plan, right? So what we'd like to do is have those roads widened in coordination with those two plans, all right? So that's where this is, all right? So if the road does not lie within any one of those plans, then we'd like the road widened to 20 feet in width, all right? So these are only roads that are going to be widened by a developer that are currently substandard, less than 18 feet in width. We want to bring them up to standardization. We want that standardization to occur based on our Unified Land Development Code, all right? So, as it's defined in the major street plan, all right?
Well,
And
what if
that
the road
document can be
is,
found online, all right?
sorry, what if the road is 5 miles long? How,
Then it's between two certain sections that are identified in the traffic study policy, all right?
In other words, it would go
Yeah.
between the two major intersections and, you know,
Correct.
as identified in the policy.
That's correct.
Okay.
It
What if it
states, it
requires-
states here in the ordinance revision that we said, I'll read it. This is the change. Should a major or minor subdivision be required to increase the width of a substandard road, remember, substandard is anything less than 18 feet in width, substandard street, pursuant to section 174032A1A, the increase in pavement width shall be as identified in Appendix 8 of the Unified Land Development Code Major Street Plan, or the Master Transportation Plan, whichever is most current, and for a length between two roads that are identified in Appendix 8 of the Unified Land Development Code Major Street Plan, or the Master Transportation Plan, whichever is most current, all right? So should the street width not be identified in the Unified Land Development Major Street Plan or Master Transportation Plan, the street shall be widened to 20 feet from pavement edge to pavement edge, right? And you as a planning commission can define the length of road that needs to be constructed to that width if it's not identified in the two plans that I referenced earlier.
The question, what if it requires, in order to accomplish this, requires the acquisition of right-of-way? Is the parish prepared to assist with that or not?
The parish will have to negotiate that with the developer.
I'm sorry,
They will have to.
wait, who will have to?
The parish will have to, because an individual cannot force someone to transfer their property.
so the parish will have to cooperate and assist.
Okay, you're talking about taking it back. You're talking about a taking, not,
Right.
okay.
Right, yeah. To acquire right-of-way, we'll have to go through a procedure.
Right. Okay. All right, I guess we'll open the public hearing. Anybody here?
Nobody's here.
Nobody here? We'll close the public hearing.
I've got a quick, so this is actually supposed to be 174032, not 174030, correct? Y'all identified it as 174030, it's supposed to be 174032.
No, I think it
No, it references.
references
4032.
17,
174030 is design area, 174032 are street requirements. What you have here is A1A for the density restrictions, tracks with A1A in 174032. As I'm looking, at least the version of the code that I have in front of me, this
Okay.
is,
all right.
I just want to make sure we have the right numbers in here, so we
Right.
don't mess up the code.
I appreciate you making that note, and we'll make that change as needed when it's forward to the council, all right?
Other than that, if nobody else has any questions, I make
So
a motion.
which one would you use in a motion, though? 40, 30, or 40?
Well, I'd say I'd make a motion that we amend this so that the heading says 17-4032, and then recommend that it be forwarded to the parish council for approval.
I'll second.
Commissioner Chason makes a motion.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Hudson. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Item 13B, ordinance to amend the Ascension Parish Unified Land Development Code, Table C, Major Subdivision Design Guidelines.
Currently, Table C in the Unified Land Development Code, or the major subdivision design guidelines, has a listing of housing types, A through H. And those housing types allow a certain percentage of the lot mixture within a subdivision at those percentages. As an example, A housing types, which has a minimum lot width of 110 feet, 100% of the lots can be those type of lots. Currently, if you look at housing type E, 60 feet in width, 70% of the lots can be 70 feet in width. The proposed change that you have before you would allow those to be 40%. Housing type F, which is also 60 feet in width, but has a rear-loaded alley behind it, currently they can have 70%. We're recommending reduction of that to 50%, all right? So housing types G and H are both 50 feet in width. G does not have an alley, H does. We're recommending without the alley, 25% of the homes within a subdivision, or lots within a subdivision, will be 50 feet in width. And that the H types with an alley, 50% of those can be in the mix in a subdivision, right? So basically, it's just reducing the number of narrow lots in a subdivision, the 60 and 50-foot width lots. That's what's before you right now. It changes the mixing of lots within a subdivision. When this table was first put together, the idea was that we didn't want to have subdivisions with just this uniform look to it, right? Now, so there was this ability to mix up the lot widths. Now this is, we're looking at trying to reduce the number of really narrow lots.
I
So,
just want to say.
I'm open up to questions.
My home, the driveway is in the rear, garage is in the rear, but there's no alley. You just go down the street that's behind my street, and there's our driveway.
Well, as you can see under the category where it says parking area entrance,
Yes.
those are the allowable entrances for garages within those house types. So A through D, you can have any type of driveway entrance. You can have front-loaded garages, meaning that they face the street. You could have side-loaded garages, or you could have rear-loaded garages.
Okay.
When you get to the 60-foot lots, you can have side or rear. And, for the, let's see, it's side or rear if they have an alley, or side and front if there's no alleyway, all right?
Oh, I
So-
see where it says alley required outside of the chart.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay,
Yes.
I didn't see that before,
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Any questions from anybody else? Any other commissions? Jerome, has anybody done any kind of a assessment, economic assessment of what the impact of this is?
I have not. My understanding is that the building, East Baton Rouge, or the Greater Baton Rouge Building Association has done something, but I have not been privy to it.
I mean, this is going to have a significant impact.
Very
So-
likely it will, yes.
Yeah.
A good one, though.
Hmm?
A good one, though.
I don't know. This double-edged sword.
That's why the council is elected, to make those decisions.
Amen.
So I'll make the motion that we recommend it to the council to do with as they wish.
I
Can I
like
make
that
it that way?
motion.
I'll second.
Anybody got a second?
I'll second that.
So we're making, so the motion says we send it to the council for them to decide. All in favor?
Aye.
It passes unanimously. Next item, number 14.
So move.
Amen.